Hey everyone, welcome back to Next Level Sax. I'm so glad you're here because today I get to share something really special, a masterclass with the one and only Boney James. Boney hardly needs an introduction. He's a 4-time Grammy nominee, has sold millions of records, and is one of the most recognizable voices on the saxophone today. In this session, we go deep into his world, his current saxophone setup and the gear he loves, what practice looks like for him both at home and on the road, the players and influences that have shaped his sound, his experience stepping into the role as a band leader, and even a few gig horror stories. And the best part, Boney even picks up the horn and shows us what he's been digging into lately. Now, before we dive in, I want to quickly share a few resources that can help you on your own saxophone journey. First is the Jazz Saxophone Standards Etude Workbook. This is a comprehensive 70-page workbook that includes complete etudes on standards like All the Things You Are, Cherokee, Giant Steps, Rhythm Changes, Blues, and Stella by Starlight. It's packed with lesson exercises and key insights, and it ties directly into the free lessons you'll find right here on the Next Level Sax channel. And right now, you can get the entire book for just $1 by using the discount code NEXTLEVEL at checkout. Second is the Jazz Saxophone Blueprint. This is my digital course mastering tone, articulation, and time feel. If you've ever wanted to build a full, more resonant sound, sharpen your articulation, and really lock in the swing feel, this course lays everything out step by step. It's designed to give you the foundation you need to sound authentic in jazz. Third is the Next Level Sax community. This is where all these resources come together. As a member, you get access to exclusive live masterclasses like this one with Boney James, an entire library of lesson videos and PDFs, and a community of saxophone players from all over the world who are here to learn, connect, and grow together. You'll find the links to all of these in the description below, so definitely check them out if you're ready to take your playing up a notch. All right, let's get into this incredible conversation with Boney James.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Yeah, well, thank you. I wanted to start off just by saying that I ran into you on purpose. We were at, or I was getting my horn fixed here in Hollywood, and I saw this beautiful horn that was laying there, and I said, "Oh wow!" To the repair guy Manny, who we both use, I said, "Whose is that?" And he said, "Oh, that's Boney James's horn. He's going to be here in about 5 minutes." And I just found a way to stick around. The work had already been done, and I said, "Okay, let me just hang out for a bit." And you came in, you played, and it was absolutely incredible. I was blown away as always. But just to hear you work with the horn, just amazing. I always like to start off while the reed is still fresh. If you want to play anything for us.
Sure. I don't think this is the horn that you were looking at. It was the soprano, but this is my tenor that I've had for a few years now. I got this from Manny. He had actually been saving it for a while, I think, till the prices got up to the astronomical area where they are now. And but I had played it a few times and thought, oh man, that's a really great horn. And so a couple years ago, I bought it. It's a 71,000 Mark VI. So I think that's about 1957. My soprano is also in the same era, and it just feels like my horn. And this is maybe the third or fourth Mark VI I've had over the years, but this is by far the best one to me.
Amazing. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, all registers, just absolutely amazing sound.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's get right into the gear. I know that you've got a couple of, more unique elements to your setups. Yeah, let's start with the tenor. What's the rest of the setup look like?
Well, I'm playing this Heidinga neck, which I was chatting with Candy Dulfer on the Smooth Jazz Cruise, which I co-host with Marcus Miller twice a year. Now it's coming up to that's 3 times a year. But it's an amazing event where tons of artists and fans go out and sail around the Caribbean. Anyway, she has a whole horn made by this guy, Friso Heidinga, who's a Dutch guy. And then I noticed that Melissa Aldana was playing it, and a couple of other people I really respect were playing this neck. So I wrote him on Instagram, and he made me a neck and sent it to me. And I have tried different necks over the years, and always just felt like, oh, it's different, but it was never like better than my Selmer neck. But this one, as soon as I put it on, I was like, oh my God, that really does something beautiful and positive in terms of just evenness of tone throughout the registers of the horn. It helped my pitch. Certain dead aspects of the horn were now coming alive, and I really loved it. So I've been playing that for a while. This is a relatively new mouthpiece. This is a vintage Auto Link. Also, I would guess in the 60s, early 60s era. I really love it. I'm playing a Roberto's Winds Reeds, 2.5 soft now these days. I've got this Le Freak tone bridge thing on here that sort of makes a bridge between your mouthpiece and your neck and bypasses the cork. It does something I dig. And I've also got one of these Klangbogen things on here, which also does something I like. Just I'm always looking for more timbre, more tone, more nuance in the sound, and these various things that I've done to the horn just make that work. I actually have a new ligature I've just discovered. This is called a Zach ligature. It's Italian, and it's just 2 chords, and a pretty cool. I don't know if you guys can see cool little mechanism on the back, and I'm really digging it. So I'm a searcher. I'm always looking for something fresh and new to try and dredge whatever more I can get out of my sound or my connection to the horn, or to remove the struggle that is sometimes endemic in playing the saxophone. So it's just about the music.
Yeah, I think I mean, that's a couple of new things since the last time I talked to you, which
Yes.
wasn't
I
that
know.
long ago.
No.
Yeah, the thing on the neck, the bridge thing. I've never seen that before. Who turned you on to that?
That's something I had not seen before either. And I was following a classical saxophonist. She lives in Germany. Her name is Asia Fatiava, I believe is how it's pronounced. Amazing player. Just the algorithm showed it to me one day, and I started following her because she's such a beautiful sound and incredible facility in the horn. And she plays, concerts, classical concerts. Anyway, I just noticed on her soprano, and I wrote her out of the blue. She doesn't know who I am, I'm sure. I said, "What's that thing on your horn?" And she wrote me back and told me and sent me the link, and so I bought it, and I like it. I put one on my soprano too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, tell us about the soprano, and is it the tenor or the soprano? It's a new addition.
This is the newest horn, although they're both new-ish. I think I probably had the tenor for a couple years before I got the soprano, and I got the soprano maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. I was on the road. I was playing a Yamaha at the time. I had played a Busher for many, many years. I always loved that sort of old school sound. Never found a Mark 6 soprano that I felt comfortable playing, or that, really did it for me. But I bought a modern horn because I wanted the keyboard to be a little easier to play. But then I saw Roberto's Winds posted this online, and Tom Troncom was playing it. In fact, I think he did one of his tone tests videos where he played a few different horns and with the same mouthpiece and setup, and this one really sang. And so when I was in New York, I went by the shop with my Yamaha, and I tried this horn and ended up buying it that day, leaving the Yamaha there with them, and they shipped it home for me. And I took this on the bus with me on the rest of our tour that we were on, and I've just fallen in love with it.
Wow.
I'll play a
Yeah.
little bit of this one.
Well, when you know, you know. You know. Amazing. Let's go. Let's move on from the setup, and let's talk about some of your early influences. Was there a moment in which you heard something or experienced something musically that said, "Hey, this is what I want to do"?
I always loved music when I was a kid. Different kinds of music. I listened to pop radio all the time. I picked up a clarinet in third grade just because everybody back in those days would learn how to play an instrument. I wanted a trumpet, I believe, and all they had at the store were clarinets, and I took one home. A couple years later, there were a lot of clarinets in the band, and the teacher leaned on me to switch to saxophone. Um, and I resisted at first because it was a much heavier case I was going to have to carry around. But they gave me an alto, and as soon as I picked it up, I started to love it. I just loved it. I remember learning Burt Bacharach songs or Herb Alpert songs. And as I got older and I was listening to the radio, this was in the 70s, you could hear a lot of R&B music had tremendous saxophones in them, and bands like Chicago were around, with horn sections. And so I just started to get really excited about music. And then fusion started happening. I remember very vividly hearing Mr. Magic for the first time in high school, in my first year in high school in 1975. And I think that was really the first time I heard some music that, really fired me up because it was like the R&B groove that I loved with the saxophone that I also loved because was not a bebop fan at a young age. It just didn't float my boat. So I was fortunate to be sort of coming up and getting into music at a time when there was a lot of music that appealed to me. R&B music that had a jazzy influence, jazz music that had an R&B influence. And that's pretty much the tradition that I'm continuing to work in today.
And that kind of leads into some of those early bands that you were a part of. And I guess as I understand it, there was a stretch of time that it took you to kind of get into a status and where you were the band leader.
Oh, yeah. Well, when I was in high school, I was playing in a fusion band called Line One, and we were determined to get a record deal, and that's what I did for the first few years, even after I graduated from college. I was delivering pizzas and trying to get a record deal with this band, and then the band broke up, and I was just, pretty aimless. And I heard that Morris Day was putting a band together right after the time broke up, and he needed a keyboard player. So I played a little keyboards because I was already writing songs. Um, and I learned Jungle Love and The Bird, and went and auditioned, and then they hired me to do that, and I convinced them I could really play saxophone as well. So that started my 7 year or so career of working as a sideman with various bands as a keyboard sax player guy who, I could do a few things. Um, and I played with the Isley Brothers and Randy Crawford and, you know, huge Sheena Easton and Tina Marie and Bobby Caldwell at the end, and a lot of different gigs, and sort of learned, paid my dues.
And as I understand it, during that audition process, um, what do you think is what won you the audition, so to speak?
On that very first gig,
Yeah, for
I
the
think they liked the way I looked. I think they liked my vibe. I always did enjoy sort of dancing around on stage. When I hear music, I come alive, and I think they noticed that. And I guess that's what it was. And also I had a groove, I think. Apparently I could play the keyboards in the way they wanted them to be played. And I was a good sort of second keyboard player. I would learn your parts and play them faithfully, and I have a good pocket, and I was responsible. So I didn't know, but I was not happy as a sideman at all. I really, it was not for me. I really wanted to start do my own thing, and I wanted to play more saxophone. And so towards the end of it, I was pretty miserable and really very much looking towards trying to get my own music out there. And that took a few years to make happen.
uh, tell us tell us the story of how you became to be known as Boney James.
Well, that actually started relatively early on in my career. It was, I think, 1986. It was my second gig or third gig. I played with Morris, and then I got a gig with Ray Parker Jr., and then I got this gig with Randy Crawford. And it was a really fantastic band. Tony Maiden from Rufus was playing guitar. Wayne Lindsey was the keyboard player, a bass player named Sekou Bunch. Ron Bruner Sr. was playing drums at the time. Um, and Randy at the time was very popular in Scandinavia. So we were over in Norway and Sweden, places like that, for long periods of time, and getting a small per diem for expenses. And I said to Wayne Lindsey one day walking down the street, man, everything costs a fortune. I'm just going to have to not eat for a couple days, just making a joke. And he said, oh, you'll get all skinny. I'll have to start calling you Boney James or something. And I said, please don't do that. And just to mess with me, the rest of them, they all started calling me that, and it spread. So there was a whole segment of musicians who knew me through these cats and thought that was my name. So next thing you know, you got a nickname. And when my record came out, my then producer, Paul Brown, called Paul Jackson Jr. up to play on the record, my first record, Trust, and said, come do this Jim Oppenheim gig. And he said, oh, Jim Oppenheim, you mean Boney James? And then the record company got wind of it, and that's how it ended up coming out under that name for my record. So I sort of had two identities for the number of years there.
That's amazing. But that's the way, in speaking of the tradition of jazz, really, that's the way you get your nickname, is
Yeah.
somebody's got to give it to you, and it sticks.
Yeah, like Sting, for instance. I heard he used to have a sweater that made him look like a bee, and his friends made fun of him, calling him Sting. And that worked out for him. So same thing with me.
Oh,
Although now
wow.
I have to try not to be Pudgy James. I'm as I get older, it's harder having this nickname.
Yeah, when I first went to college, I started at North Texas, and my roommate started calling me JP, and then he introduced me to everybody as JP, and nobody knew my real name. And I didn't like the JP at all, but I was stuck with it.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
Um,
I got used to it, that's for sure.
yeah, well, yeah, it definitely turned out well for you.
Turned out okay.
Let's talk about touring life. You've got such a rich, long history on the road, touring all over the world. I want to talk a little bit about some of the, practice elements, saxophone specific type stuff, but also some of the mental game involved. One thing that I always notice when you're on tour, or when I watch somebody, especially a sax player on tour, I always wonder how they keep in tune so consistently if they leave their horn on the stage with all the varying temperatures, and then they just walk up and they pick it up and they just start playing. And, if they're a good player, it's in tune. Is there anything that you do to kind of mitigate the opportunity to be out of tune or to be in tune?
Oh yeah, well, it's very important to be in tune. And temperature is extremely problematic at times, especially if it's a very hot outdoor festival or a very chilly, air-conditioned indoor venue. So my MO is, I've got my tuner app in my phone, little app in my phone, and I generally will tune the horn at soundcheck on stage. If it's in a theater where it's going to be that temperature when I hit the stage. And then I will leave it just set that way, and hopefully I don't have to make any adjustments. Sometimes when bodies get in, it might warm up a little bit, and every now and then you might have to push in or pull out a little bit. But I find that, I keep an eye on the temperature. I ask my tour manager, how is it? Is it like it was at soundcheck? Or I'll poke my head out there and just see. And then if I need to, I'll put the horn in the wings, and tune it up again before I hit the stage so that it's acclimated and as close as it can be. If I'm playing outside in a festival, you can't really tune up in the daytime. If you're playing at night, it's going to be completely different. So I will, if our dressing room at a festival quite often is a trailer of some kind, I'll put the horn outside on the grass a few minutes before it's time to hit the stage and let it acclimate to the temperature and then tune it up. And then when I hit the stage, it's where it's supposed to be.
And I believe that you like to be at the venues and have that experience for, an extended period of time well
Yes.
before the gig.
Yeah, that's my happy place to be at the gig. Many times after sound check, the band and the crew will go out. You know, they all eat in between sound check and the gig. I can't eat before the show. So I just tend to stay there and I don't feel like I need to ride in a van, back to the hotel. Because to me, especially if it's a nice enough dressing room, I might as well just stay at the gig and chill. And that's what I tend to do. If I have a decent dressing room, I like to just be at the gig. That's where I like to be. The horn is there. There's a snack if I need it. I can take a nap. I've got my own space as the artist. So that's one of the cool things. That's a perk.
And when it comes to being on the road, what is what does the practice preparation kind of look like in that setting?
If I don't have a day off, I don't really hit my practice schedule like I do at home. To me, I'm going to get it out at the gig. Um, and I've really gotten into the habit now of trying to pick out as many reads as I possibly can that I feel like are already, solid reads, and I put them in read cases. So hopefully I'll hit the road with, depending how many shows we have. Like we've got 5 weeks of shows coming up. I'm not going to be able to have enough reads for all of that. But I'm going to come out with 10 or 20 reads, so I don't even have to look for reads. I don't need to really practice. I just need to make sure that the read that I thought I was going to play is going to work in the environment where I am, because oftentimes that changes. But find a read and play the sound check, usually an hour or so at sound check there's playing, so my embouchure gets warmed up, and then I might take a nap. And then half hour before the show, I will warm up. But I'm not like shedding for hours like I am when I'm at home because I'm sort of saving it for the gig.
And how do you find a read? Speaking of reads, is there anything that you do in particular to that's like a routine of some sort?
Yeah, well, I've gotten in the habit. I mean, I used to be, Manny told you, I'm sure, but I used to be terrible with reads, until I got this new setup. I would struggle quite often with finding a good read and have to go through boxes and boxes and boxes and occasionally find a read that I loved and or I could make a record with or play a show and oftentimes those would last for one particular day or something. My new setup is a lot friendlier. So, but I do, on certain days, I'll just go through a few boxes of reads, and if I find a read I like, I'll put it in one read case. If I find a read I think might grow with some playing, I'll put it in another read case. And then when I get reads that I feel like are super solid, I will save those for gigs or recording and practice with a less fantastic read just for shedding. So yeah, a good read is very precious, and I try and make sure I've always got some in the queue. Then I'll rotate them. But I'm not like a soaking kind of guy. I'm not like a working it kind of guy. For me, just a slightly moistened in my mouth, and then I'll know pretty early on in a playing session if it's going to work or not. And luckily, I'm finding a lot more good reads these days.
And how do you store the reads? Because I find that like if I, crack open a read case or a box of reads and I play on them, I soak them, I play them, I say, okay, that's a great read, I want to keep that, I put it back in the read case that it came in. That's what
Mm.
typically do. But then it just dries out, and then inevitably a week or two later it's just like a completely different playing read. Is there anything that you
I
do?
carry my reeds around in these things. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
It's glass and it's got felt and it's a really great case. I got this one from Boston Sax.
Mm.
And so I have two of these, so I can probably, get like 20 good tenor reeds. And I have a similar one for my sopranos. And they stay nice and flat and dry, which is how I like them. They don't warp at all. So I recommend this. But this works for me.
And you don't find any kind of molding issue? I always run into
Well, I
that if
always
I have a.
dry. I dry the reed off
Hmm.
before I put it away. Try and remove as much moisture as I can, because you don't want it to be moldy. Um, I tend to try and clean out my mouthpiece as soon as I'm done. Try and keep all the fungus at bay.
Yeah, I remember a time when that used to be like not a bad thing. People would be like, "Oh yeah, that's extra. It's a good thing," and not
I
so
never
much.
leave the reed on the mouthpiece. I always have it super flat and dry, and that seems to work better for me in terms of making sure that they're going to be where I expected them to be when I take them out to play them again. But like I said, with my new setup, I'm finding I can get a few gigs out of each reed, and if I'm practicing, I can play the same reed for a week or so, or it's good to rotate, and then I can have five or six good ones, and then they last quite a lot longer.
Yeah, I remember I've been going to, the same repair shop for over a decade, and whenever there would be a huge bag of reeds, like a shopping bag full of reeds, uh, Manny would be like, "Oh yeah, these are for Boney."
Yeah. I mean, I still buy a lot of reeds, because I'm always gigging, and I like to have them here, and I like to know that I have them when I need them. Um, but I'm not going through them as quickly as I used to, and I'm finding a lot more ones that are playable and that are fun to play with this new setup, like I said. Um, I know David Sanborn was also, very notorious for being tough to, going through lots of reads. But that's one of the great aspects of having the career that I have is that I can afford it and it's a write-off, and I don't have to worry about, playing the same read for ever and ever or playing a read that doesn't work for me. It's part of my job to find a good read, so I take the time and spend the money to make sure that I have one.
Have you tried any of the synthetic reeds and thought about that?
Yeah, I try I try everything if I can. I like to try new things, and if they made one that felt good to me that I could just consistently play and not have to worry about it, I would totally do it. But they don't work for me. They don't sound right to my ear. They don't feel right to my lip, and they're just not right. For many, many years when I was younger, I played plastic cover. My first few records I made with plastic cover, but when I listen to those now, they sound a little bright and thin to me. My concept of my sound has changed over the years. So I think it still sounds like me, but I am hopefully, edging more towards fatter and warmer. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, well, and speaking of like, playing on an auto link now, which obviously has like zero baffle at all in it, and
Yeah.
to be able to get your sound on it means that internally you're doing what it takes to make that
Yeah,
happen.
it doesn't sound too dark to me, but it doesn't sound too bright. Some of my other mouthpieces, I played Gardala for a long time, um, and then I played a bunch of new design mouthpieces, all really great pieces. The West Coast sax I played for a long time. I was playing the 10M fan. He makes fantastic mouthpieces. Some of them with baffles, but they still sounded great. But I'm finding with this mouthpiece, for whatever reason, I can put a little more air into it and not have to fight the mid-range sound. And I'm having a lot easier time getting up to the altissimo than I was on those other mouthpieces for whatever reason. So I think this one just fits me better.
And where did you find that mouthpiece?
Strangely enough, Mark Sepanuk, the 10M fan guy, put it up for sale on Facebook. And I said, "Oh, I'd like to try that." And he said, "Oh man, if you start playing this instead of my mouthpiece," because I was playing his mouthpiece at the time, he said, "I'm never talking to you again." Just kidding. But he sent it to me, and I bought it, and I fell in love with it. And I pull his out every now and then, just to make sure I'm doing the right thing, because I loved his mouthpiece. I made the last record with it, but this one is still floating my boat.
Yeah. Um. So,
Sorry about the helicopter. I think that there's this.
oh, I don't hear it.
Oh, cool.
I live by the airport, so it's like a constant battle. So, uh, when it comes to practicing when you're not on the road, are there a couple of key things that you try to, consistently hit?
Well, sure. I mean, practicing is such a huge part of my life, and there's always something to learn. I think I go back and forth between thinking about my tone or thinking about pitch and or keeping my fingers nimble, um, trying to stretch my knowledge of things. If I hear something sometimes somebody else did, I'll say, "What is that?" And I'll transcribe it. I don't write it down, but I'll learn something and then I'll try and learn it in all keys. And then, you know, whether or not I use it or not, it's just good for my brain to keep stretching things. And I find as I've gotten older and I'm more facility with the horn that I can do things that I couldn't do when I was younger, when I was really just learning. So I'm trying to keep that learning mindset. So it's either like long tones for tone and pitch, keeping my throat open and my sound big and even, working on altissimo, which is something I find I can do a lot easier now. So now that I can get up there, I have to learn, the technique of getting around up there, and new ideas and all keys, or, and then sometimes I have to spend time writing new melodies. I mean, it's a constant seesaw of things that I'm working on and thinking about. So it's not so much a regimen like when I was a kid. It's a little more free flowing, but I sort of just trust myself to know where it is I need to go on a given day. But I'm out here every day.
Do you remember the last thing you transcribed? What that was?
Well, I was working on St. Thomas for a while because I always loved it, but when I was a kid, I never learned what Sonny Rollins did. There was a Sonny Stitt thing that I spent a lot of time memorizing, called Sunnyside, which was kind of like a rhythm changes thing. I'll play a little bit of that. I forgot it.
That's always how it goes.
I forgot it.
Hey there, sorry to jump in real quick while you're watching, but if you've been digging this video so far, I've got something I think you'll really want to check out. Let me ask you this. You've studied the theory, you've learned the licks, you've played the heads, and even transcribed the solos, but your own playing still isn't locking in like the greats. Why not? Most players think they need more vocabulary or fancier substitutions to sound better, but in reality, the missing piece, the thing that actually makes someone sound like a jazz player, isn't more notes. It's tone, articulation, and time feel, and that's exactly what this course is built around. Welcome to the Jazz Saxophone Blueprint, mastering tone, articulation, and time feel. This is my complete step-by-step course to help you build your sound, style, and swing feel your playing has been missing. This isn't just a random collection of lessons, it's the result of decades of study, performance, and teaching, all distilled into a structured system that has helped saxophonists finally sound the way they know they're capable of. Inside, you'll get access to over 25 in-depth video lessons, no fluff, just the exact methods I use with students and pros. Full demonstration videos so you can hear and see exactly how each concept works. Downloadable PDFs for every exercise, phrase, and concept. No guesswork. A complete course workbook that includes all exercises in one place, plus a key insights section for every lesson so you can absorb the most important takeaways and track your progress clearly. You'll learn how to develop a resonant, focused tone through overtone and tuning exercises, and how to build a swing and time feel through articulation, breath accents, pivot patterns, and blues phrasing. This course is designed to meet you where you are, and it's totally self-paced. You can move freely between lessons and sections at any time, but I've also organized everything in a clear progression to help you get the most out of the material. Plus, you'll be able to download a full book of 200 jazz phrases over the most important chord progression in jazz, the 2-5-1. This is a lifetime study of vocabulary with bebop phrasing, altered dominant ideas, and even a built-in practice tracker to help you stay on course. You'll also get bonus lessons like my 5-step improvisation method, a major chord and scale workout, blues phrasing and how to keep things rhythmically interesting, a full melodic breakdown of blue bossa, bebop enclosures, approach notes, and sidestepping sequences. Whether you're an adult learner getting back into playing the horn, a serious high school player preparing for auditions, or a professional looking to refine your core sound, this course gives you the foundation to play musically, confidently, and authentically. So if you're tired of guessing, if you're tired of sounding almost there, click the link and join me inside the Jazz Saxophone Blueprint. Let's make your playing feel as good as it sounds in your head. I'll see you inside the course. Yeah, because I remember, I think we had talked about, you were saying that as you get, yeah, better with the technique, or, as you get more, experience on the horn, you've been starting to check out some more of the bebop type
Yeah,
language and tradition, as opposed to before.
yeah, that's absolutely true. And so St. Thomas pops into my head, that last thing. Golly, I just try and find things to play over and really just learn more harmonic stuff that I might not have known before. I mean, I heard somebody played this lick the other day, and I thought, oh, that's so dope. So it's kind of like a flat nine, sharp nine thing. I love that.
That's great. Now, what note was that?
That's a G, high G.
Wow. Yeah, I think I think the highest I really ever go, I think it's maybe F, maybe.
Well, this horn goes all the way up to the high A. Not lovely, but I can do the G with pretty decent tone these days. And so I'm trying to work that into my repertoire because that's like I said, it's something I never used to do.
Well, it sounds like a real note, so that's a good thing. Um, let's. Do you have any passions or hobbies outside of music?
Not so much. I mean, I like to read. I play word games. I'm studying Spanish with the Duolingo app when I'm on the airplane these days. I just like to try and keep my brain active. But mainly, if I'm not playing my horn or writing music, um, I think just reading and chilling, hanging out with my wife. I travel so much, so anytime I get to just hang around the house, watch TV and just, be normal is pretty valuable.
Yeah, yeah. I don't have too many outside
Yeah,
hobbies.
I
I
mean, this
should.
stuff is still fun. It's
Yeah.
still fun. Another thing I always play is this Moto Perpetua. I played this last time. But I love this. This is something my teacher Bill Green taught me many, many years ago.
Hmm.
So it's a Vivaldi or Paganini. On and on and on.
Ah, amazing. Is
There's
that
pages and pages of that.
now? Is that like from a flute or violin or?
It's a violin thing, yeah. Paganini.
Mm-hmm. I've got a couple questions here. I know I wanted to ask you. Um, what's the strangest gig you've ever played?
I can't think of anything strange offhand.
Well, that's a good thing.
I mean, when I was younger, I played some strange gigs. I did some gigs with Woody Harrelson when he had a band for a while. That was unusual. Um,
Okay, let's bring that into the gig horror stories. Some epic fails. Anything come to mind?
well, I remember once when I used to go out in the audience quite often when I was gigging, and we were playing somewhere in Washington, D.C. at I can't remember the name of the venue. Can't remember the name of the venue, but it was a big venue, multiple thousands of people and steep stairs. And I wandered up into the audience and I was walking up these stairs and I felt someone grab me from behind like in a bear hug and then lift me up. And it was a large woman and then she fell backwards and the two of us actually tumbled down these stairs. And I landed on top of her, so I thought she might have really hurt herself. And so I said, "Are you okay?" And then I scampered away, and I believe she was removed.
It was just a fan, or
Just a fan, yeah. It was done with love, I think, but still it was ill-advised.
wow, and you didn't have the horn on you.
I did. I had the horn on me.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's another horror story. I did trip on stage once. I was holding this, not this horn, but another one of my marks says, "Thank you, good night." And I tripped on the edge of the keyboard riser as I walked off stage, and I just went straight down and slammed the horn into the ground, and it was messed up. It was really, and we had a gig the next day. We were, I think, in Buffalo, New York, or something like that, and we were on our way to New Jersey. So I actually, I knew David Sanborn and had his number from doing these cruises. He was often a guest on there as well, and so I texted him or called him. I can't remember which. Probably called him, and he called me right back. It was relatively late at night, and arranged for me to go to his repair guy, and we spent 5 hours there in surgery, and then I made it to the gig with a refreshed horn. But that was a tough day.
Wow. And so he had a repair person in the area?
Yeah, Bill Singer was the cat's name. No,
Hmm.
we were heading down towards Manhattan. So we stopped in Manhattan. We actually took the band to the gig in New Jersey across the river, and then my tour manager and I went to Manhattan and had Bill Singer fix my horn, thanks to David Sanborn. Rest in peace.
Wow. That's lucky. That's
It was scary. It was a
yeah.
scary time.
Wow. Um Now you said, well, actually, let's do this. If you could only take three albums, not your own, to a desert island, what would they
Oh my
be?
gosh. Oh my gosh. I don't really listen to music much anymore like I did when I was a kid. But probably my three favorite records when I was coming up would have been maybe Earth, Wind, and Fire's Gratitude, the live album. Incredible. With the Don Myrick, you know, solo on Reasons. Oh, this thing.
Awesome.
That was a big influence on me when I was coming up. Stevie Wonder Inner Visions, I think every song is really classic. And maybe Heavy Weather Report, that's another great record. Every song is great.
Yeah, so really in the fusion zone
Yeah, fusion,
and
R&B,
R&B, yeah.
I mean, Superfly was another record I really loved, that I don't know. There's a lot of music that I really loved when I was coming up, but like I said, I hardly ever listen to music anymore. I'm always just working on it.
And speaking of working on it, what is that process like, in terms of, let's say you're putting a new album together or getting ready for, some new songs on a tour. What does that process look like for you?
Well, I just try and stay ready for ideas when they come, and I'll sing them into a little memo recorder or into my phone. And sometimes I'll have a little keyboard idea, some changes that might pop into my head. I'll sit down and just start playing, or a drum groove even. Um, and usually there's a fallow period after I turn a record in. Like right now, I mean, this record that's out now, Slow Burn, has been out since, well, it's almost a year, but still feels new to me. So I'm not feeling creative at all. But eventually, over time, I've discovered that every 18 months or 2 years or so, I will start getting ideas, and I collect them, and then I start going back and to listen to what my ideas are, and then that'll spur another idea, and then all of a sudden it snowballs until you're really working on some new music. But I just sort of trust that it's going to happen, and don't trip when it's not.
And then is it a combination of either maybe a groove that inspires a melody or a melody that comes first, or is there
Yeah,
a
it's everything. It's both. It could just even be a set of changes, um, or a groove or a melody. you know? Lots of times, friends that I work with will send me things that they're working on that they can't come up with melodies for, and or, to just send me ideas, and that'll spur things on to me. I had a keyboard player friend come over and just play me some changes he was working on, and then I put it into my computer and made a whole song and record out of it. So that's a common mode as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask, is it like, how, if you, had to give a percentage of how, you producing and writing and arranging the entire track versus having a collaboration of some sort, would you say that it's more on the collaborative side or that you,
Yeah, I'd say probably 60 or 70% collaborative just because I'm, not as prolific in that respect to be cranking out 10 songs every, couple of years myself. But I usually have, probably three that were me originally, or maybe four, and then the rest will be coming from other people. Lots of times I'll start with an idea and, someone will come over who's, it's good to have another pair of ears, and all of a sudden you have a bridge to a song that you didn't have before. So I like collaborating. It's fun.
and now if you had to choose, the studio versus live performance, is there anyone that you lean more towards?
They're just so different. I mean, I'm really grateful to be able to do both. I mean, I didn't know that I liked making records until I started making records, but I really do. It's meticulous and time consuming and solitary, but then you have something that'll last forever at the end, and it's very fulfilling. Whereas a gig is collaborative and communal and immediate and exciting, and then at the end it's gone forever. So, there's just completely different sides of the same coin.
And then do you do the at least the saxophone tracking in your home studio, or do you prefer to go somewhere else? Or
No, I cut the saxes right here. Back in the day, I used to not, but since I built this studio in my backyard, and I've been cutting the records here, and it's really nice to just have that freedom and ease and all of that, and it sounds great in here, I think so. Um, I used to feel like there was a element of performance involved in going to the studio and being on the other side of the glass, but I found that that's not actually true for me. I do have an engineer comes and runs the machine while I'm playing, and uh, and it's working.
and what?
I'm pretty pleased with the performances on the last record, particularly.
Yeah, yeah, it's beautiful work.
Thank you.
What microphone then are you using for the sax primarily?
It's an AKG 414 TL2, which I don't think they make anymore. It's transformerless 414. Um, and it's just a really simple, clean, transparent sounding microphone, but it gets all the bottom that I need out of the horn. And I've been using the same microphone for a long time, 20 plus years. So it's kind of part of my sound. And I've tried other mics over the years, but I keep coming back to this one because it's just transparent sounding is how I would describe it.
Now, if you had to, go to the studio to record, let's say it's on somebody else's record for whatever reason, would you bring that mic with you?
I have done that. I have done that. Been a long time since I've gone to a studio to do, nowadays if somebody wants me to guest on, I'll say send me the file and I'll cut it here and send my audio back. So that's been pretty much the MO for a number of years now.
Yeah, I find to have that ability certainly frees you up. Definitely. I've got a couple of kind of rapid fire questions I want to get to, and then I
Okay.
do see that there are a number of questions in the chat, so I
Okay.
definitely want to get to those. Okay, let's see. Uh, First saxophone you ever owned? Do you remember?
For the when I first started, I had school horns for a long time, just loaners from the school, and started with the alto, and then high school they lent me a tenor, and I fell in love with the tenor. Um, I think the first horn I bought was, I think it was a Mark Six because they weren't so expensive back in the 70s. Um, but it was a used Mark Six. I think when my school horn was a con, but not like a good one. Like a student con. Anyway, yeah, I think the first horn, I think I've always had Mark 6 tenors since I was like, younger. So very fortunate.
And do you have any of those still? I mean, like the
No.
original ones that you had bought?
You know, the first horns I got were, I had a couple of horns stolen at gunpoint at one point. That was a terrible experience.
Oh, wow.
Um, but they were insured and I was able to get another set of really good horns. But I tend to not keep tons of horns around, so I'd like to just have two. So I have two tenors now, two sopranos, two altos, which I never play anymore. It's been a couple of years since I picked up my alto. Um, but yeah, so whenever I find one that I want, I'll get rid of another one. I'll put it at Manny's on consignment, you know. Just I'm not a real collector like a lot of cats are.
Favorite city that you've visited and or played at in?
Oh my gosh. You know, I don't really get around much these days when I'm out gigging. So it's all about the gig for me. There's a lot of cities I love playing in. You know, I love to play in Detroit. There's always a great audience there. Chicago, New York, LA. You know, I mean, but wherever there's a stage and an appreciative audience, that's kind of where I want to be. So it's all good. I mean, we just got back from Honolulu yesterday. We played two shows or two nights over there, and you know, it doesn't suck.
Yeah, I saw some clips from the Blue Note. Looked incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, morning person or night owl?
I'm a morning person. I like to get up early. I'm sort of at my best early in the day. When we're on the road, of course, that has to change. Um, when I was younger, I was more of a night owl. I mean, I made a whole record that was really late. I wrote a song called 2:01 a.m. because that was when I was working on it. But I've really changed as I gotten older and settled down. And I love to get up early and have some coffee and come out here and work. This is you know, I don't start playing my horn till 9 a.m. just for my neighbor's sake.
One food you can't live without.
I like a lot of different foods, unfortunately. But, you know, probably all the usual suspects: French fries, pizza, Italian food, Thai food, Vietnamese food.
Yeah, I'm a pizza person. It's
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I've delivered pizzas for a living for many years.
Last song that you listened to.
Hmm. I can't remember. I mean, honestly can't remember. I will sometimes just put on the serious, you know, or the music choice singers and swing just because it's relaxing and has nothing to do with my job. So that kind of music is what I find relaxing these days and works as music does for most people for me, because otherwise I'm going to be studying it, you know.
Yeah, that's one thing. It's trying to find how you can unplug, you know, and
Yeah.
listening to other genres can be, or different types of music can be really
Yeah.
helpful. Yeah. Okay, I want to make sure we get to our questions because I see several down here. Let's see. I'm going to start at the top. And okay, let me just move this to the side here. Okay. Uh, it says, can you ask Boney what he has learned from other musicians that he thought were better than him at the time? What lessons and advice would he give to intermediate players to become better? Are there any idols of his that he played with that taught him anything?
Wow. Well, that's a multifaceted question. Um, my teacher, as I said, Bill Green, was a huge influence on me, you know. Um, he was you know, a multi-wind session player that taught a lot of cats here in Los Angeles and sort of a Kansas City guy. And most of what I know I learned from him, honestly, in terms of just um, sound and practice techniques and you know, just getting around the horn. Um, most of the sax players I admired from a distance. You know, it was only after I became an artist that I got to meet a lot of cats. Um, but I did get to spend some time with, you know, David Sanborn, which was always really awesome. but we don't really share a lot musically, sound wise. Kirk Whalum was a sax player I really admired when I was younger. He was actually influential in that. I remember I was playing keyboards with a pop singer named Martika at the time. She had a single called Toy Soldiers, you guys might remember. And I was a very frustrating gig. I only had played my sax on one song, and then I was in a record store on the road, and Kirk Whalum had put a record out, and I just fell in love with his sound. And I remember thinking, oh, this is coming around again? Because for a long time, fusion and this type of contemporary jazz had gone away, and it started to come back there in the late '80s. And so that was kind of what spurred me on to maybe work a little harder to get my record out. And then a couple, 3 years later, I was able to do that. So that was sort of an interesting moment. But in terms of playing, it's always great talking to other cats and trading tips and things and, what is that you're doing? But for the most part, I do that here in front of my computer with my Apple Music and just, like I said, just try and learn what people are doing and then make sure that it becomes part of me.
And I think it's so cool that you get online and look at what other people are doing and reach out and be like, hey, what
Oh
is
yeah,
that
in terms of
thing?
sound, yeah. Well, that's, it's how I've discovered a lot of things that I've discovered, and I like that sense of I don't feel like I'm at the I think there's more to be learned. Let's say that. I think I have more I can do with the horn.
Always learning, always
Yes.
learning.
A
Okay,
lifetime process.
that's right. Okay. We have a comment. How does it look so young? We won't ask you how old you were. Okay.
Well, I can tell you that it says online.
Oh, that's true.
I just had a birthday.
Oh, you did.
64 years old.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. I never would have guessed. That's
I feel
incredible.
good.
It's the music.
It
It's the
is. It
music
is. It's
keeping you
it's
young.
I'm very, very lucky and happy to do what I do for a living. And I think that does keep me young.
Okay, we've got, I don't know if we covered this, but how often and long do you practice? I always thought professionals practice less than an intermediate player. I've
Hmm.
played tenor on and off for 15 plus years, have an alto, but it seems that I can't get the sound out, especially the low notes.
Hmm.
Also, any plans to come to Sao Paulo, Brazil?
Oh, I wish.
I have seen him 3 times at concert and moved to Brazil in January from Atlanta area.
Wow.
Okay, so yeah, just how long? You did mention that you practice pretty much every day,
I
especially
do.
when you're home.
Yeah, if I'm not on the road, I'll practice every day except Sunday. I always promised my wife I would take one day off, and I find taking some time off actually is useful. We're actually going to take a vacation coming up, which I don't do too often, and I don't bring the horn with me like I did when I was younger because I used to be paranoid that if I didn't play every day, it would go away. But now I have learned that taking some time away from the horn can be useful. But for the most part, I practice every day except for Sunday, and I would say a minimum of 2 hours and maximum of like maybe 5 hours. Um, and that's there's thinking involved in that too. It's not just 100% with the horn in your mouth, but I like to be out here playing. It's still my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, I share all of those anxieties as a younger player. It's still actually I have those anxieties of
Yeah,
not playing every day. But it seems though, as you get more connected to the instrument, the quicker it is to get back to that place of feeling comfortable with it.
absolutely. Yeah. Um, This setup has also been really good. I mean, like I said, when I was struggling with reeds and my setup, you come back from a vacation and not playing the horn for a few days or a week or however long, and it's like, oh, where's my sound? Now I'm pretty much know that when I pick up the horn, it's going to be pretty close to where I left it, and it's not going to take me more than an hour or two to really feel like myself again.
And any plans to get down to Brazil?
I wish, my fan base is mostly here in the States. I've done a couple of tours in Japan. I've done a couple of gigs in the UK. But I think that the generation I came up in, this type of music has not really spread to Europe and Asia and South America like earlier versions and some maybe some more current versions. You know, there's a lot of cats that are becoming famous from their Instagram feeds and stuff like that. They seem to be doing better in Europe and the UK, but I'm very fortunate that I can play, 75 gigs plus a year here in the States, and I got that going for me.
Yeah, I take it. Will you ever go to the Gen Conference? Do you know the Gen Conference, the Jazz Education Network Conference? Is
No,
the
I'm not hip to that.
Yeah, it's the annual Jazz Educators Conference. It used to be
Hmm.
basically IAJE,
Okay.
but about
I
12
remember
years
hearing of
ago.
that.
Yeah, it's super
Yeah,
fun.
I mean, if invited, I mean, I don't consider myself much of an educator, but I have done, some things where high school students come to sound checks and things of that nature, and I'm always open to answering kids' questions. I think it's great when people are learning music, but I'm not like a sit down and teach saxophone kind of cat.
Um, yeah, I mean, it's definitely there are just performers, so that's an option. I was just
Oh,
thinking, um, do you remember the last saxophone lesson that you took, like a
oh, it's been
legitimate like
forever.
saxophone?
It's been forever. Yeah.
So
It
it's
would
not
have been.
something you've done recently or keep up with or
No, I'm think I'm my own teacher, for the last X number of years, and I'm still learning. So, and I
yeah.
feel like I'm still making progress. So things are going pretty good.
Yeah, well, I always try to tell my students that my job is to teach you how to teach yourself,
Yeah,
so you can
yeah,
continue to learn.
yes,
Um,
absolutely. Super important.
let's see here. Uh, I bought your Boney James Volume 1 saxophone, Hal Leonard Play Along Songbook. How did they approach you, and what made you decide to release it? Any plans to release another play along?
Well, that's pretty much up to them, the publisher. I don't generate that stuff. They did come to me and ask about it, and then they hired a guy to transcribe it, and he did a great job, I thought. And it's kind of neat that it exists, but I don't take any credit for it at all, other than they asked me to do it, and then they sent me the transcriptions to make sure that it was cool. Um, and they has play along too, and it's like, oh, that sounds really good. I was impressed with what they did.
Wow, I got to check that out. That must be pretty a cool feeling to have.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, somebody
Very,
send
very
you
nice.
transcriptions of yourself.
Yeah.
Is there a favorite reverb plugin or processor you use on your recordings? With recording the mic and recording chain is huge in getting a good recorded sound.
Yes. Well, when I'm cutting, I'm just using the stock Digidesign Pro Tools Verb and their uh, delay stock. Then I have a guy that I've been working with for 20 plus years named Dave Rideau, who's my engineer mixer. And I will then give him my rough mixes of everything, and then he will add lexicons or Bricasti or expensive reverbs and things that he owns that I don't own. But when I'm recording, what we've been listening to now is just a little bit of that Digidesign stock reverb, and I think it sounds really nice.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, yeah, that's a whole thing. It can go so
Yeah.
many ways with that.
When I'm on the road, I actually have a little rack with my wireless, and I have a Lexicon multi-effects processor that actually sounds really good for the shows. So that's what I use for that.
Any use of a pedal board at all, or
No, no. I mean, I see people like Ben Wendell doing
yeah.
that, and it's like it's a cool vibe, but that's not my thing.
Yeah, it seems like a whole nother technique thing, to work
Yeah, if
out.
you're interested in it, but I've never been much of a gearhead, just the saxophone gear, not the electronic gear so much.
Right. Well, the saxophone is a piece of technology.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Boney's soprano setup. Yeah. What? We know there was Mark Six. What was the mouthpiece in the
Oh,
read on
well,
that?
this is actually a Link mouthpiece too. This is really new. This is a slant sig auto link, and I'm really digging it. And same ligature, that Zach ligature, and the Roberto's Winds 2.5 soft, and I'm digging it. Really digging it. It's very warm sounding, which is kind of what I gravitate towards.
Well, this has been incredible. Just to hear, from an icon such as yourself, and being so generous and sharing. I really appreciate it, and I can't wait to hear you at your next performance and your next albums and everything that you're doing, and I just really appreciate you being here.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for asking me, man. It's been fun.
Wow, what an incredible session with Boney James. Big thanks to him for joining us and sharing so much about his career, his sound, and his approach to the horn. From his gear setup to his practice habits to his journey as a band leader and even some gig horror stories, there was so much to take away. And of course, it was a real treat to hear him demonstrate what he's been working on. Now, before we close, I want to remind you of a few resources that can help you keep building on what we've learned today. First, the Jazz Saxophone Standards Etude Workbook. This is a comprehensive 70-page workbook with complete etudes on standards like All the Things You Are, Cherokee Giant Steps, Rhythm Changes, Blues, and Stella by Starlight. It also includes lesson exercises and insights, and it ties directly to the free lessons available here on the Next Level Sax channel. And right now, you can grab the whole book for just $1 with the discount code NEXTLEVEL at checkout. Second is the Jazz Saxophone Blueprint. This is my full digital course, mastering tone, articulation, and time feel. If you want to develop a resonant sound, sharpen your articulation, and lock in a swing feel that sounds authentic, this course gives you a step-by-step roadmap. It's packed with lessons, guided exercises, and demonstrations to help you get there. Third is the Next Level Sax community. This is where you can connect with other players and take your learning further. As a member, you'll get access to exclusive live events like this one with Boney James, an entire library of lesson videos and PDFs, and a supportive group of saxophonists at every stage of the journey. It's a great place to stay inspired and accountable in your practice. You'll find links to all these down in the description, so check them out and see what the right next step is for you. Thanks again for watching, and as always, keep practicing, keep listening, and I'll see you in the next video. Happy practicing.